My name is Bobby Mink with Choice Consulting and Management, and we want to welcome you back to Choices Create Change podcast. Today we'll be unpacking 7 questions a leader should ask themselves every 3 to 6 months. How frequently do I communicate a vision? How am I spending my time? Do I give people timely and direct and constructive feedback? Are we identifying high-performing, high-capacity team members for possible promotions? Am I attuned to changes in the business environment that would require a change in the way we organize or run our current business? How do I behave under pressure? And does my leadership style reject who I really am? So let's get started. Vision. Ask yourself every 3 to 6 months, how frequently do I communicate the vision of our organization? Does everybody really understand who we are and where we're going and what we're trying to accomplish? How frequently do I communicate the priorities for the business or for our organization? Would my employees, if asked, be able to articulate the vision? Do they understand it? Is it clear? Is there any confusion? Are some of my responses or directives in conflict with what we've communicated as our vision? Would my employees, if asked, be able to articulate the priorities? Does everybody understand what the most important things to be working on are, and are we working on those things? Is there any confusion into the results we need to be trying to achieve as we move toward what we've communicated we want to be and we want to become? Could everybody on the team be able to speak about the vision of our organization? Does everyone understand the why? If we have communicated the bigger vision of our organization, does everybody on the team understand what they do and how what they do impacts the bigger picture of what we're trying to accomplish? Do they understand the why of what they're doing as it relates to their job, their team, their department, the organization? Have we communicated with clarity who we are and where we're trying to go? And does everybody understand that on their journey in the organization? The second thing we want to discuss is your time. How are you spending your time? Are you working on your business or are you working in your business every day? And you're like, Bobby, what does that mean? It means when I'm working in the business, you find that your task list or your to-do list is full of things that you are doing. If you're working in the business every day, you will find that you are probably very reactive. You're probably being pulled into situations and decisions that should be managed and handled by someone else. You find that you're reacting because you haven't had time to shut down for a minute and to think about what's going on and where you're going and what we're trying to achieve, and even unpack some of the trends in our metrics that may be a red flag or of some concern that we're not on the right track. Are you working on the business or in the business? And you may say, Bobby, there's not enough of us. I have to work. So I understand in small organizations that we all wear a couple of hats. If there's only 5 of us or 10 of us, there's a lot of things to accomplish. So we might have to be wearing more than one hat or be responsible for more than one area of the company or job. But part of that as the owner, leader, manager, department head is to spend some time thinking about and working on the areas that you are responsible for, but also on the areas of the bigger organization. How often do you schedule reflection time to review random reports, to review some results, to look through notes you've been taking for meetings or conferences that you've attended? How are you doing with getting quiet and thinking about the business? I had a division president challenge me once very early in my career. I had been promoted to an area that now included, instead of 1 location, 5 locations. And instead of a staff of 4 or 5, I had a staff of 33. And I'll never forget, he came to me one day and said, Bobby, I want you to go sit somewhere next week for an hour and I want you to think. I said, think about what? He said, I want you to think about your area, the people that are working for you, the 5 areas you're over. I want you to think about it. And I'm like, what does that mean? You have to understand my personality, integrator, operations. I'm a let's get it done person. I'm a let me check the box, let's get this thing going. So I do the task, I accomplish something and I check the box. That's me. And I'm like, how do you check the box of sitting somewhere and thinking, right? So I remember I said, I don't know what that means, John. And he said, take a blank piece of paper and take some random reports or tools that we've given you. And I just want you to go sit somewhere for about an hour and just look through that stuff and think about that stuff and see what happens. So I'm like, okay. So I take a Friday afternoon, I drive up to the lake, I'm sitting at the boat ramp, I've got some reports, I've got a blank piece of paper, I got a bologna sandwich for lunch. So I start, okay, let me just think. So it was amazing to watch in that first session as I'm looking at some of the metrics and I'm looking at some of the random reports. I started noticing some trends and some concerns. There was a situation coming at me that I was going to need some more staff, and I hadn't really thought about that, right? I need the next 60 or 90 days, I probably need to bring somebody on. As I was looking through those numbers and reports, I thought about, well, you know what? We're not going to have enough production. If these metrics continue, if this success continues, we're going to run out of product here in a few months. So I need to make sure I have some new things started and some new things in the pipeline. Same thing for you as owners or COOs or CEOs or department heads or vice presidents, or even if you're mom and dad in a family. Are you thinking about where we're going? Are you spending some quiet time with a cup of coffee or a Red Bull or a tall glass of ice water or whatever it is? Getting quiet and just thinking about where you've been, what's going on, and where you're going. And here's what I know. If you'll make the time, the good Lord will fill it up. So you need to have on your calendar at least monthly an hour somewhere quiet to think about the business. That's how to better manage your time, right? Also about your time, what are you doing to grow? What are you doing to learn? What are you doing to improve yourself? As an owner, as a parent, as a leader, as a manager, as a department head, what are you doing to grow, learn, and improve? That's part of your time. Part of your time should include learning, training, conferences, conventions, audiobooks, podcasts. Some part of your time needs to be pouring into you, right? Because knowledge is power. Here's the other thing. As a person in leadership, the influence you have of those around you or that work for you is super powerful when you can bring things that you've been learning or exposed to that might help them in their journey. It might help the company. It might help the situation. Because you've been learning, you're helping everybody else grow. But it's got to be on your calendar. I'm teaching a class here in Atlanta next week on priority management. How do you maximize your time? And one of the biggest tools that we need to use is our calendar. Your reflection time should be on your calendar. It should be a meeting you have booked with yourself that you block off. You're learning, whether it's listening to a podcast on the way to work or on the way home, or it's signing up for a conference downtown or in another state, or it's a audio book while you're flying or driving vacation or going to a job. You have to have some places in your time to pour into yourself. If you want to maximize your impact, you need to be continuing to grow and learn. The last one is, do I manage by walking around? Part of your time, is it being around and aware of the organization, the department, even your family, the company that you work for? Do you walk around and observe and talk and have conversations? Are we finding out what people are going through and how they're doing, right? It's interesting that most people that stay at a job, guess what the number one reason they stay? And it's not money. Money is 5 or 6, they say in the statistics. It's who they work with, who they work for. The owner, the manager, the department head, the vice president, the people on their team, the culture, the environment they're in. That's why they stay. Yes, you have to pay them fairly. But the reason I stay is relationship driven. Do you celebrate a job well done? Had an owner once that said, I don't really think that way, and saying thank you or recognizing people doing a good job is not part of who I am. And so I coached him to take his accounting person, Mary, who was very much empathetic and pastoral, and ask him once a month to walk down to his office and remind him to go say, thank you, good job. And once a quarter to walk down and say, have we done anything fun or have we celebrated? So part of your time should be making sure I'm walking around, I'm checking on people. Now be careful as an owner or a department head or a manager of telling people what to do when you're walking around, because they already have a boss. that they're supposed to be working for. When that upper management walks around and tells people what to do, it changes everything because you're higher up on the totem pole. If you're the owner and you're telling somebody in accounting what to do, whatever their boss told them, they're forgetting. I'm going to do what the owner said. So if you're going to walk around, it's more about relationships, finding out how people are doing, finding out how our systems and processes are doing, finding out how the results are, and do you have what you need, right? It should be checking on people randomly and also figuring out a way to celebrate and tell somebody, job well done. Create a process in your organization where we catch people doing things right. And sometimes it's amazing things. And let's make sure we capture that and we celebrate that. Let me tell you, if you do that, you're going to create a place that people want to stay and that people will thrive. And your results, you will see tremendous results. The other thing is asking questions, right? Not directing people what to do, not necessarily making a lot of direction, but maybe taking notes and observing and listening to go back to your leadership meeting or to the department heads or whatever. And then let's talk about what we might need to change or adjust based on what I've been hearing on the floor. And listening to the stories, listening to your people about what they're going through, what's working, what's not working is super powerful. But we're talking about your time. These things have to be part of your schedule and part of your time. Okay, the third one is feedback. Do you give people timely and direct and constructive feedback? Never forget it. At a company in Florida, their top employee, I would say, she was amazing. She was crushing her job. Everybody knew she was crushing her job, but she carried a little baggage of, I'm not sure I'm doing a great job. She wasn't super confident, right? And so as I was talking to her one day, doing some coaching, said, you're doing a great job, and it's amazing to watch the progress you've made on your journey. And she made this statement, it would really be nice to know how I'm doing. It would really be nice if every now and then we could sit down and have a conversation about what I'm doing, what's working, what's not working, and just get some feedback. Here's what I would say. When somebody doesn't know, the story they create in their mind is not right. They start to tell them story about, well, I am making some mistakes and I am probably having to work too late because I'm not getting my job done and they're probably not really happy, right? It's terrible. And the person starts feeling worse and worse and it starts to reflect on their work and their attitude. And it all comes back to the fact that they're not getting any feedback from any management or anybody around them. And so it can affect their work even though they were crushing it. So do you give people timely, direct, and constructive feedback? And let's go back to the last session on time. You've got to create a place in your schedule, a process in your organization where monthly or quarterly or annually is probably not often enough, but at least quarterly, where we sit down and we talk to people. It's easy peasy. How are you doing? Brag on yourself for the last 30 days. What are some things you've done a great job with and you feel like you're doing good with? And let's just celebrate for a minute. And then let's talk about what things do you think you could do better? And I'm going to be writing those down. And then I'm going to share a few things about what I've noticed, maybe some areas we could work on. And at the end of this conversation, I'm going to say, how can we help you with the things that you're struggling with so that you feel like you can do a better job and learn and grow? And then we make a list. I need to go to a class. I need to write a book. I need to go to a convention. I need to get some training. I need to watch more training videos. I need some more training on our software. I need an Excel class. Whatever it is, we put a timeline and a list of tasks over the next 3 to 6 months that help them move forward. And that was not scary, right? A lot of people, when they hear I'm going to have a review or I got to go have a conversation with my boss, they instantly remember the principal's office in school. It doesn't need to be that way. We just need to listen, unpack what needs to be worked on, come up with a plan, and then let's touch base every few weeks, right? Feedback. Do you have 5 or 6 junior people who aren't in the upper echelon that maybe haven't been around forever, that you can lean on and listen to, who will tell you things that maybe you don't want to hear, but that you need to hear? Do you have some people around you that take down the walls and close the door and say, okay, you may not want to hear this, but I'm just going to tell you, right? And so we've got to surround ourselves with those kind of people. As an owner, a department head, manager, mom or dad, we don't just want yes people around us. telling us what we want to hear. The only way to continuously improve is to identify areas that we're struggling and how do we correct and improve those areas. And in order to have those people talk to you, have you created a safe environment so people will speak up and share? They'll share what they see. They'll share maybe some ideas. They'll share maybe some craziness that's going on that you weren't aware of, but they feel safe and they're not fearful that if we talk about some very difficult conversations or some things that I'm noticing or feeling or hearing, that they're not afraid that those conversations will get them in trouble or get them fired or they're demoted or people will think worse of them. So we've got to figure out, if we're going to try to get feedback, how do we create an environment where people will give us this feedback? As it relates to feedback, we as leaders and managers should be asking 50% more questions than making directives and telling people what to do. We need to listen, take notes, be aware, be empathetic, not make any rash decisions, not freak out, right? We just need to continue to ask questions and listen. There's a book we talked about during our 15 Things Great Leaders Do, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Seek first to understand and then to be understood. As a great manager or leader or owner, as I'm trying to gather feedback, I need to ask good questions and I need to seek to understand what this person is seeing or feeling without necessarily solving it, without making any decisions today. And definitely, we'll talk about it in a little bit, definitely not freaking out, right? So you have to create that safe environment. Do we notice, or do we have a process around us? I don't care if it's 5 people or 50 people. Do we have a process where we notice when people are doing a good job? When maybe they're going above and beyond. Maybe they're staying late. Maybe they've brought some work home to work on. Maybe they're going the extra mile. Maybe they kind of helped in another person's job just because that person was in the need and really busy. And so they just stepped in and helped. Are we noticing those people in those situations? And if we are we celebrating those? Are we giving somebody a pat on the back? Am I giving you a random $5 Starbucks gift card to saying, I noticed and I just want you to go have a cup of coffee on me? Am I giving them a $25 Longhorn gift card to say, I want you to just go out to dinner? No, it won't pay for everything, but I just wanted to say thank you. Maybe take your spouse out for dinner on us. But I just wanted to let you know you're doing a good job and I noticed and I really thank you, right? It will change people. It will change culture, right? Because culture trumps everything. As it relates to feedback, if my competitor and me are similar in what we produce, similar in price, maybe their margin's a little better than ours, we both kind of do things similar, it's neck and neck, we're duking it out, and all of a sudden I create a place where people love to come to work and they feel empowered and they feel like they're noticed and people are aware of them and they're celebrated. Dude, they'll pour their entire life and heart and soul into what they're doing, and you will watch yourself slowly begin to go past that competitor, right? And part of that journey is feedback. Number 4, potential promotions. I see this a lot across most organizations across the country. We are not really super great about noticing our top performers. One of the reasons why is we don't use our calendars, so we don't schedule time to stay on top of things. So we run around like crazy people. I had a manager yesterday tell me, Bobby, I just show up and run around and react all day long. And I got to be careful what I say, but part of that is, why don't you manage your time instead of letting your time manage you? So part of this process of identifying high performers is we do have to have some time to reflect and get quiet, which we just talked about. We have to be able to notice what's going on in the organization and who's producing those results, which you've heard me say before. If it's not written, it's not real. If it's not measured, how do we improve it? So creating a process where we're tracking what we're doing, and then we notice the players that are having the biggest impact and getting the best results, we need to identify them. We need to identify our high-performing, high-capacity team members because there's probably more to them that could help us as an organization and help them with their career in the future. My personality, I've got a high capacity, right? And I'm competitive and I love to go. So I really appreciate through my 20 years at one of the organizations I was at that every 3 or 4 years, I got a new opportunity. I got stretched, I got challenged. I didn't realize it because I was young when I was living it, but I was thriving in that environment. That constant opportunity to learn more and grow more and make a bigger impact. And we have to create a process where we identify those types of players. And then do we have a process to train and equip them for the next opportunity? No. We don't. I can tell you across the country, we can barely stay afloat, let alone set aside time to train and equip and empower somebody. But we need to begin the process. How do we slowly expose them to new metrics, expose them to new meetings, expose them to new thoughts to begin their transition journey? Put them in situations they weren't in before so that they can absorb and see and feel what's going on that will begin to stretch them and begin to prepare them for the next opportunity that we're going to need them for. The next opportunity, how do we know what that is? Let's go back to our goals and our metrics and our vision. Do you have a 1-year plan? Do you have a 1-year goal? Do you have a 3-year goal? Do you have a 5-year goal? I even challenge owners for a 10-year goal. And when we unpack what that might look like, well, I want to be 50 million in sales, or I want to produce 1,000, or I want to have a margin of 30%. Whatever that goal is, what staff is it going to take to achieve those goals and those metrics? And as I'm looking at my organization, I've already identified 2 or 3 players that probably can make some promotions and make some progression in their careers and in the company that could prepare us for this next season of growth, right? And so, but part of that is if I don't know where I'm going and then I don't know what I need to get there, it's hard to identify those talents and begin to train and equip those talents for what may be coming in the future. And the last thing is, do we have an accountability chart or of our current organization, even if there's 5 of us, who is responsible for what in the company? If there's 55 of us, who is responsible for what in the company? What does the organizational structure look like? And I can tell you for most organizations I coach across the country, we don't have them. We don't have visionary leader. We don't have integrator operations manager. We don't have head of sales and marketing. We don't have head of production. We don't have head of development. We don't have head of finance that includes HR and IT and accounts payable. We don't really have a structure. And so what happens is there's a lot of confusion as people step on each other's toes. But if we want to identify potential promotions and groom the inside talent of our company for the future, we have to understand where we are and also where we're going, and then what structure or staff will we need to achieve those new goals 3 years or 5 years from now, right? So we've got to have a process, and then we need to understand, we need to watch and be aware of our high capacity, high performing rock star employees and help move them forward. All right, number 5 is industry changes. Are you attuned to changes in the business environment that would require a change in the way we organize and run our business? Are you aware of what's going on in your industry around you, in your city, in your county, in your state, in the nation, in the world? Are you attuned to what's going on? Well, not really. Okay, so how do you start getting connected? How often are you around other owners or other managers from your industry? How often are you listening to their stories and their frustrations and their challenges and what they're learning, right? How often do you expose yourself to other people around you? They may be competitors. I know there's some situations, for example, in home building, there's a Builder 20 where 20 different builders from across the country get together a couple times a year just to talk about metrics and talk about profitability and talk about staffing and talk about the industry, not sharing any trade secrets. But where are you with hanging around people in your industry to understand what other people are going through and what's going on? Once again, if you're listening to podcasts, if you're reading or listening to books, if you're going to conferences, if you're growing yourself, you're going to be more on top of industry changes. How often do you go to conferences? How often are you attending conventions? Do you attend something every year, every quarter that might expand your horizon or expose you to new ideas or new thoughts that might help you in your industry and with your competitors? What books are you reading? What books are you listening to? What podcast are you listening to? You need to continue to stretch yourself to be better for your people in your organization. It's not all about you. The better you get, the more equipped you get, the better you lead us, and we can go crush it as an organization, right? Be aware of industry changes. What podcasts are you listening to? So number 5 is you got to start being more aware of what's going on in your industry and getting yourself out there to listen and see and absorb what might be going on that might give you a competitive advantage. The last one is a big one. It's pressure. So how do you behave under pressure? I can tell you, I've been in some situations that were awful, and they were awful to me as the person that was taking the frustrations. And it was also very demoralizing, and it really didn't rev my motor to go knock it out of the park and go crush it. You have a situation where the boss freaks out from the pressure of what's happening with the customer or profitability or a certain job, and they explode. I've seen them throw things. I've seen them cuss. I've seen them shut a whole job down. I've seen a lot of crazy reactions. And my question to you is, how are you behaving under pressure? Let me just give you a little bit of coaching. If you're going to cuss and scream and throw something, wait till everybody leaves, go outside by yourself, go out behind the building, and then freak out, right? But please don't do it in front of people that are going to take it personally, and you're going to crush their spirit, right? What signals are you sending your employees, your team members, your family members when you fold under pressure and you react, or there's an outburst, or, can I control myself, or do I have an outburst that might intimidate people? Are you aware? We talked about it in our 15 Things Great Leaders Do, emotional intelligence. We've got to be aware of who we are and how we're put together, and how what we do and how we're perceived impacts everybody around us, right? So I can't go back to first grade and take my toys and go home. I can't roll around on the grocery store floor, kicking and screaming that I want a chocolate bar. Like, I can't do that when I'm a manager or a leader or owner. I've got to control myself, and I've got to figure out a way to allow that pressure to escape somewhere else at another time. I didn't say compress it, internalize it, and then literally blow up one day. But you got to figure out, what do I need to do? Here's one of the things that I see a lot, and it's crushing, is passive aggressive statements. And I was guilty. I'll never forget. Maybe the last time I ever did this, I was sitting in an organization. I was COO. The owner was at the end of the table. We were having a conversation, and we were talking about some warranty service, work that needed to be done. And the owner made a comment about warranty. And so I said, so I guess we're not going to sign off warranty anymore, right? Which was very passive aggressive. And he freaked out and slammed his hand on the table and said, look, we don't need passive aggressive in this organization. There's no place for it. You just need to say what needs to be said. Whoa, stopped me dead in my tracks. We used to call them heat seekers, way back in my early days. I want to say something that'll get your attention. It won't hit you directly, but it's going to come close, and it's probably going to upset you or make you angry or depressed, or it's just going to hit you because this is not fair and this is not right. And somebody needs to feel this, right? So you'll hear people say things, well, I guess we'll never make any money then. Okay, that's so childish. I guess certain customers are never going to be happy around here. Well, I guess this means you'll never finish a job on time. Like, you can not only see and hear what I'm saying, but you can see my body language that this is somewhat immature, and the pressure of a situation, and maybe the pressure of an employee that's been struggling, and I'm so frustrated, I've just had it. And then you have an outburst and you can't pull it back once it's gone out, right? So we have to figure out, as leaders and managers and parents, how to control and manage. There is really no place in the world for adults with a passive aggressive nature or statement. You just need to say, so warranty is a struggle. What do we need to do about it? So we're having struggle making the customers happy. What do we need to do about this? So we're having difficulty finishing the job. What do we need to do about this? I don't need to make some side comment to make somebody feel bad that they didn't do a great job, or that they let us down, or they were frustrated. So don't let the pressure get to you, right? And then the last one, leadership style. The current leadership style you're using, is it yours, or are you copying it from somebody else? Have you read or been around other leaders and you tell yourself, I need to be more like them? Okay, not the right answer. You need to be you. You're gifted and you have experience through the way that you're made, and that's the way you need to lead. Does your leadership style reject who you really are? I did a coaching call this morning with a guy that has a dual career right now. And in his 40-hour, 50-hour career, he's crushing it. But in this new part-time gig, he's really struggling. And he's watching other people around him that are full-time that are really crushing it. And he's struggling with, I should be more like them. Like I should be doing a better job. And I'm like, hold up, just wait a second. You just need to be you. The experiences and your journey that got you here to this part-time position is exactly what this position needs for today. Am I trying to be something or somebody I'm not? If you are, it's going to be a mess. It's going to create chaos. You're going to get frustrated. The people with you and around you are going to get frustrated. So we just need to set aside the baggage of I'm not enough and understand that all the experiences that got you to the position you're in as a leader today is exactly what it's supposed to be. I'm not saying that you don't need to try to get better and grow and improve. It's the last 6 things we've talked about. But trying to be somebody else never works. Am I trying to impress or make people think I'm different than I am? You don't need to. You need to bring your stories and your experiences and your frustrations and your failures and your challenges and your victories and your insights into the current situation you're in and use those to the maximum. Does my leadership style need to be tweaked or changed a little? Maybe. Podcasts and books and conventions and hanging around peers. Maybe you need a coach. Go to choiceconsultingman.com and click on contact us and we'll get in touch with you and see if we can't help you. But does my leadership style need to be tweaked or changed? Maybe, but you don't need to become somebody else. Is my leadership style helping the team get amazing results? That's the key. I heard a statement on a podcast the other morning and he said, we need to quit living as a company by people and start living by results. If we know where we're going and what we're trying to achieve, and we know what the results look like, we can equip and empower our people to go after those results. And if they can't get the results, then we can talk about whether it's a person or not. But hiring people and putting people in and trying to figure out how to get results is backwards, right? John Maxwell. So this is 7 things that leaders need to ask themselves every 3 to 6 months. And John Maxwell says, everything rises and falls on leadership. So let's go. Let's go. How frequently do you communicate vision? How are you spending your time? Do you give people timely, direct, and constructive feedback? Are you identifying the high-performing, high-capacity rock stars currently in your team? And they may be on the very first rung of the organization, but there's something about them. And are you attuned to the changes in the business environment and what will require change in the way we organize or run our business? And then how are you behaving under pressure? And then is the leadership style you're using, is that really you? So thanks for hanging out with us today on Choices Create Change podcast. We look forward to you next time. This is Bobby Mink with Choices Consulting and Management. Have a great day.